Welcome to Hannity, and tonight the race for the White House is in the final stretch, and voters will be headed to the polls in just 18 short days. Now, Donald Trump, he'll be here in just a minute with reaction, but first, it's been a very big week in politics. Now, the candidates, they faced off in their third and final debate in Las Vegas. The liberal mainstream media, they lost their minds over Donald Trump's comments about accepting election results, despite, of course, a long history of Democrats doing the exact same thing. And although Fox News cannot independently verify, undercover tapes from Project Veritas appear to expose very sinister schemes by Democrats to incite violence at Trump rallies and to commit massive voter fraud. And tomorrow, the GOP nominee will make a major pledge to American voters in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Joining us now with details, 2016 Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump. Mr. Trump, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you, Sean.
Can you give us a preview? It almost sounds like a contract with America or promises to America that you're going to be talking about tomorrow. What can you tell us?
Well, we're going to be doing a lot of things. We're going to be lowering taxes. We're going to be strengthening our border. We're going to be getting rid of regulations. The regulations are going to be gone because, I mean, you look at this country, what's happening with regulations, and we need them for security and we need them for certain things like the environment, but our regulations are just taking over our companies. We can't compete anymore. We're going to be terminating, repealing, and replacing Obamacare. We're going to be saving our Second Amendment. There are a lot of things, Sean. It's going to be, I think it's going to be very special.
Differences. The Supreme Court vetting refugees, saying radical Islam, cutting taxes, raising taxes, keeping Obamacare, getting rid of Obamacare, building a wall, not building a wall, energy independence, no independence, education top down or to the states. Those are deep, profound differences. Do you think the voters understand the choice that is theirs this election?
Well, I think they do, and I think if they watch the debates, they would really understand a lot. I mean, right now, I think you have two very clear choices. You have a really clear choice between Hillary Clinton and myself. And if you just look at the stances on everything, she's going to raise taxes, I'm going to lower taxes. She's going to increase regulations, I'm going to cut regulations down to a minimum, a good number, but down to a minimum. And there's so many different things. We're going to rebuild the military. We're going to take care of our vets. We're going to save the Second Amendment. We're going to repeal and replace Obamacare, which is a total disaster. She wants to make it even a bigger mess and going to spend trillions and trillions of dollars on it. It's crazy what's going on. And so you have a really clear choice. You have a very, very distinct choice.
You had been very critical in the media throughout this entire process. Now through WikiLeaks, we know the following news organizations: Univision, NBC, ABC, CBS, the New York Times, Politico, the Boston Globe, all of these organizations, CNN, in one way, fashion, or form, have been in the pocket of Hillary Clinton. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's totally brutal. I mean, you could do something that's, just fabulous. It's perfect. Everything's great. And then they end up giving you bad news and bad stories, bad coverage. It's the single greatest pylon, they say. This isn't me saying it. This is other people and even news organizations. The single greatest pylon. Despite that, you just saw the crowd we had outside. We're in Pennsylvania now. We just left North Carolina. I'm going back to Pennsylvania. I'm going to a different section in Pennsylvania in a little while. We have a massive crowd there. It's been unbelievable what's going on. And I think that it's not pollable, although, as you know, 3 polls came out today saying I'm leading nationwide. And look, it's a question of taxes. It's a question of borders. Do we want to have a country or not? We're going to have strong borders. And we're going to have people come into our country. But, Sean, they're going to come in legally through a process. They're going to come in legally. So, I think a lot was learned in the debates. I think you understand how we did and how well we did in the debates. And I think we really showed a big difference.
I want to ask you, and you did bring this up during the debate, I only want to play you one small clip of the Project Veritas videos. And it's about the flow of money to these operatives that admit and brag that they're fomenting and causing violence, even back in the Chicago incident in March, but also talking about a massive voter fraud plan that they have and they want to orchestrate. I want you to hear how the money flows and then respond to the 2 specific tapes. Listen to this.
I am contracted to him, but I answer to the head of special events for the DNC and the head of the special events and political for the campaign.
The campaign pays DNC, DNC pays Democracy Partners pays the Fogle Group goes and executes.
All right, so let me read it. It says the campaign pays the DNC. The DNC pays Democracy Partners. Democracy Partners pays the Foval Group. They are the people bragging about fomenting violence at your events, inciting it, and they're the people that also talk at length about massive voter fraud in this election. And you came under heavy fire after the debate for saying, I'll keep you in suspense about accepting the election outcome. What is your reaction to these tapes?
John, I've been saying for a long time, it's a rigged system. It's just terrible what's going on. And then the politicians play right along with it. I mean, you have 1.8 million people who are dead who are registered to vote, and some of them absolutely vote. Now, tell me how they do that. There's only one way. But you have 2.5 million people or so that are registered in 2 states. That means they're voting twice. Look, we have a system. I'm a big believer in the system. I love our country. But I think I've done a great service by pointing this out. And a lot of people agree with what I'm saying. That I can tell you. But when you look at those tapes, it's disgusting. Our rally in Chicago, that's where they were. They were there. And nobody could figure out what was going on. Where did these... They're real thugs, by the way, real thugs. And they injured policemen. They injured people. And they should be put in jail. I mean, these are bad people. And again, it's a rigged system. And who got blamed for it? Our rally people, us, me, everybody. We all got blamed for it.
You.
And it had nothing to do with us.
Well, the Democratic operative overseeing this visited the Obama White House 342 times. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think it's a disgrace. And I guess he saw the president 44 times, they say. Who knows? But I think it's disgraceful. Can you imagine the one who was overseeing violence? And this is a criminal act. I don't know if you saw the picture. Cops were leaving. These policemen, these great people were leaving with massive gashes in their head from these people. These are professional thugs. They were being paid $1,500 a day, and they got cell phones out of it. No, this is a very serious problem. And I think come November 8th, I think we're going to win. And maybe we're going to win bigger than people ever even dreamed. When you look at Pennsylvania, look at what's happening here. When you look at North Carolina, where I just left, you look at Ohio, and you see what's happening. You see what's happening with some of the jobs, the companies that are leaving our country and going to Mexico and other places. You see what's happening with Obamacare, which is such a disaster. Obamacare is a catastrophe. The premiums are going up 60, 70, 80%. The care is no good. You can't even get it, the deductible side. I mean, say what you want. Bill Clinton said, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. He said that, and he probably suffered
New Mexico,
that night. But he said Obamacare is a disaster. It is a total disaster.
And welcome back to Hannity, and here's part 2 of my interview with the 2016 Republican nominee, Donald Trump. As I talk to you, I'm going to put up the headlines of WikiLeaks and the things we've discovered, including the latest solicitation, $12 million from a country that Secretary Clinton, as Secretary of State, thought abusing their own citizens. $12 million, also a paid appearance to go to the Clinton Foundation. On the side of you right now is a list of all of these revelations. I know you've been paying attention to it. The media has not. They've largely ignored it. What does this tell you about the Clintons and about the campaign and about their tactics? I mean, they even exposed how they would go after Obama and his father being a Muslim, and that Obama used cocaine, and going after Bernie Sanders and, of course, you. What do you get out of these WikiLeaks revelations?
Well, take a look at what's going on. I mean, look at, as an example, and this wasn't WikiLeaks, but look at what you just said about the voter fraud that was uncovered with the tapes. Look at what you said about the thugs going into arenas and starting problem. Look at what came out today about the New York Times, where they have reporters that are soft or safe or something. And I have those same reporters, and they are brutal. They're not brutal. They're dishonest. They're totally dishonest. It's a totally dishonest group of people. And you just take a look at what's happened. Look at how you get set up. I mean, they say you saw somebody in 1902. And you touch the person. I mean, give me a break. This is stuff that all doesn't exist, Sean. This is dirty, disgusting stuff, and they'll find out. It'll be revealed at some point. This is dirty, disgusting stuff. Yeah. And you know what? It's no way that it should be. We're supposed to be a great democracy. It's no way that it should be. I mean, a certain magazine wrote some horrible things I guess it came out today. Nobody reports it. I'm not going to get involved in it, but nobody reports it. But if somebody calls up a newspaper and says just one thing, they make a big deal out of it.
Well, I mean, they interviewed a woman on CNN for 45 minutes. It turns out she's claiming you were molesting her on a plane, but it was okay for 15 minutes. And then an eyewitness came on with Judge Jeanine Pirro that said that never happened. I was sitting right next to them, and she was on a public plane with a lot of people. You would think she would have cried out for help, considering the length of time. They went with that, but you're right. They'll ignore the National Enquirer, which is what I think you're referring to.
By the way, it never happened. Never happened.
Right.
Okay?
Well, you have an
Never
eyewitness
happened.
that corroborates
all that stuff,
for you.
Just so you understand, all that stuff, it was fabricated, made up, never happened. When you see they come like every 2 days, never happened.
How does CNN
never happened.
How does CNN put the woman on for 45 minutes, and then the guy that was sitting next to you?
I think it's a disgrace.
They don't even ask him one question.
It's the most rigged system I've ever seen, and I've been talking about it for a long time. And it was rigged against Bernie Sanders, and it's rigged even more against me. Well, it's a disgrace. They poison the voters with this kind of stuff and this kind of junk that never happened. It's not like a question like it may have. It never. None of it ever happened.
Obama, Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders have all themselves at different points said it's a rigged system, but I don't have time to get into it now. I was glad to see the other night there's so much money that have come from countries like the $1 million gift from Qatar. Qatar allows marital rape and marital beatings. The up to $25 million of the Clinton Foundation from the Saudis, the $10 million from the Saudis for the Clinton Library. Women can't drive. They're told how to dress. Gays and lesbians are killed. Christians and Jews are persecuted. But she takes the money. You want her to give it back. Has anybody in the media followed up on that?
No, absolutely not. You're not surprised, but she should give that money back. I brought it up during the debate. Give the money back. It's $25 million at a minimum. Give the money back. She didn't want to answer that question, if you noticed.
Yeah, I did notice that. But I consider, how can you be the champion of women's rights, gay and lesbian rights, religious freedom, and take money from countries that abuse all those groups?
Sean, you have seen things, and I've seen things, and I've been going through things. Nobody could imagine that this could happen in the United States. Nobody can even imagine it. But I'll tell you what, we're going to win the election, and we're going to clean out the swamp. You know, I'm using the expression, we're going to drain the swamp of Washington, D.C. It is a swamp of absolute corruption. It's absolutely corrupt. And we're going to drain the swamp. We'll see what happens. We're going to drain it, but we're going to win. We have such enthusiasm. And you saw what I just left this rally 2 minutes ago. In fact, I'm sitting in a room that's about 200 degrees. I've never seen it. It's like a steam room.
I know you love that.
And no, it's just wonderful. But I'll tell you what, at least you're on the side of exposing some of this stuff. The press doesn't want to do it. It's incredible what's going on in the country. But come November 8th, you watch. You saw this arena. It was packed with thousands of people outside. Something is going on that's very, very special. Plus, 3 polls came out today, including Rasmussen, and including another poll that caught it the most accurately 4 years ago. And they say I'm leading nationwide.
It's a 1-point lead. IDB, the Investors Business Daily tip poll, has you up by 1. They have been the closest in the last 3 cycles. I do think there are a lot of balls up in the air that haven't been factored into the polls yet, including the last debate, including the Project Veritas videos, including I don't think the public is absorbing what I'm showing them every night in terms of the WikiLeaks reveals. All right, I know you've got to go. I want to ask you a final question, and give me as detailed an answer as you can. Tomorrow you're going to make a pledge and put it on paper for the American people. You're doing it in Gettysburg.
Right.
Give us a preview. What is this about? Is this like a contract with America?
Sean, I want to do it tomorrow. I don't want to do it right now. I really want to do it tomorrow. I can only say we're going to make America great again. We have so many problems. Our taxes are too high. We're going to reduce them. Our borders are weak. Our regulations are crazy. Drugs are pouring into our country. People are coming into the country that we really shouldn't have come into the country. We have drug lords and criminals and murderers. And I mean, what's going on in this country is incredible. Hillary wants open borders where people can just flow through. We're not going to have a country anymore. We are going to do something very special. And tomorrow, I think, is going to be a special day at a special place.
Did you have fun at the Al Smith dinner? Did you mind getting booed a little bit?
I did. Yeah. No, I look, we say what's true. And some people don't like hearing it, but we say what's true.
That's a pretty liberal crowd, though.
A lot of her people in there.
Yeah,
that's okay. It was a great dinner. It was a great dinner. No, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
All right. Did you get in trouble when you went home to Melania last night?
No, I didn't. She was great. She understood. That was probably the moment of the evening. People loved it.
All right. Mr. Trump, have fun on the campaign trail. I know you got a lot more to get to today. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, John.
And coming up next tonight, right here on Hannity.
If Hillary Clinton gets elected, we've got 4 more years of Obama. We have a disaster. We have ISIS all over.
Donald Trump continuing to go after Hillary Clinton on the campaign trail. The original insurgent, Patrick J. Buchanan, will join us, and also tonight.
We have a bunch of babies running our country, folks. We have a bunch of losers. They're losers. They're babies. We have a president. All he wants to do is campaign. His wife, all she wants to do is campaign. If Hillary Clinton gets elected, we've got 4 more years of Obama. We have a disaster. We have ISIS all over. We won't win anymore, and your taxes are going up. And she wants to double up and triple up on Obamacare, which has to be repealed and replaced. It's a disaster. We are going to start making things in America again. We are going to start making things in North Carolina again. We are bringing back our jobs. America first. Remember that.
All right, that was Donald Trump earlier today at a rally in North Carolina as he looks to build momentum ahead of Election Day. My next guest, the original insurgent, Patrick J. Buchanan, he penned a new article about the panic within the Republican establishment, writing, quote, "The establishment is horrified at Donald's defiance because deep within its soul, it fears that the people for whom Trump speaks no longer accept its political legitimacy or moral authority." Joining us now with reaction, the author of The Greatest Comeback, Patrick J. Buchanan. Pat, I agree 100%. There's a political earthquake that is going on. And in 20 days, there's going to be a huge discussion about the future of the Republican Party. One of the things most frustrating to me is when 65% in every primary poll of Republicans saying they feel betrayed and voting in record numbers for Trump, and then the establishment stepping all over him, being more critical to him than either Obama or Hillary. I think they have totally miscalculated the mood of the public. Your thoughts?
I'll tell you, Sean, it's not only the Republican establishment, the national establishment has lost the country. Trump's great accomplishment is to expose the fact that the establishment of this country is responsible for insecure borders, the masses coming across our borders, invading our country. They're responsible for the trade deals that have deindustrialized America and destroyed the jobs of millions of American workers. And they're responsible for getting us into endless and unwinnable wars. And he has exposed the disconnect between the national establishment, frankly, and the American people. And that is a great achievement for him. And WikiLeaks, Sean, has come along and exposed the fact that the core of the establishment, the media, is basically in cahoots with the Hillary Clinton campaign and the Democratic Party.
Pat, what we have learned, and that's another fight that we'll have November 9th this year, because this needs to be exposed in even more detail. But, of course, with our election coverage, we don't have the full time to devote to it. But you've got a Republican establishment, a Democratic establishment, a globalist establishment, and a media establishment that is all sort of, in ways we never dreamed of, aligned together. And it's now all been exposed, but I don't think the American people are absorbing the magnitude of that to this point. Will they absorb it within the next 18 days?
You know, I think, let me say this, Sean, the enormous fire and energy and size of the Trump rallies, the magnificent turnout inside the Republican Party for Cruz and for Trump, the huge turnout for Bernie Sanders, the fact that Trump, as of about 3 or 4 weeks ago, was tied with Hillary and had momentum, that tells you the country wants to be rid of this establishment. The way we are going now, we could get a real possibility that the Republican elites who were repudiated in the primaries and in their party, and the Democratic elites who basically fixed it against Bernie. They will together control the destiny of the country, and we will have a nation whose establishment represents Washington, not the nation it is supposed to serve. I think we're headed for some very difficult times, and frankly, some of these tactics that you have mentioned on your show about these folks in Chicago are really somewhat more disturbing than some of the things that happened in Watergate.
You know, I mean, look at what they're saying. You know, I just showed this to Mr. Trump. You got Hillary's campaign, Pat, paying the DNC, paying Democracy Partners paying an activist group that is on tape bragging about taking credit for violence at Trump events. It's organized everywhere, putting in these people to intimidate others, and massive voter fraud on a level. Again, both these things funded, according to their own words, by Hillary and her campaign.
Let's talk about the individuals that they allegedly. Now, if it is true that they sent people out to start fistfights and maybe ignite a riot and disrupt and destroy the Trump rally, if they were behind the Chicago thing, and if they were paid by the Clinton campaign, we are talking about the Clinton campaign financing brown shirt tactics in the streets of Chicago. I mean, you've been called, and I've been called fascist for something we said. Look, what took place in the attempt to disrupt and destroy a Democratic rally, those are fascist tactics in the streets of Chicago. I was in Chicago in 1968. Abe Ribicoff used that phrase, but he was attacking the Chicago cops, Sean. But if people are doing this, that's what Goebbels and Rome and the others did with the brown shirts.
Yeah. I want to know if they're saying in their own words is Hillary's campaign pays the DNC pays Democracy Partners pays for those fomenting violence and plotting and scheming voter fraud. Is it a fair question? What did Hillary know? When did she know it? What did her campaign know? When did she know it? And by the way, this guy, this operative who oversaw the whole thing, he went to the Obama White House 342 times. What did Obama know? And when did he know it?
Exactly. You know, Sean, the great question is if. Was this guy just shooting his mouth off and nothing happened and he wasn't paid for anything and he had some legitimate reason to go to the White House 300 times? But let me say this. I was in the White House in 1968, October 15th. They found out the dirty trickster, Donald Zagretti, had been sending pizzas to a Muskie rally. I mean, we had an emergency meeting in the White House. The FBI was all over this like a cheap suit. Where is they ought to immediately have this guy in and take a look at this and talk to the people involved in those riots in Chicago and question them as to whether somebody paid them. And does anybody know if these individuals, again, are just shooting their mouth off or they did what they're talking about? I mean, they were fired instantly. That suggests to me that the people that fired them know they were up to no good.
Yeah. All right, Pat, we're going to watch this. What's your prediction? How's this all going to play out? Who do you think's going to win this?
I think the Donald's behind the 8 ball right now, and what he's got to do, he's got to raise his polls basically in the general national polls from about at least 2 or 1 behind him, and that's the only way I think you're going to tip the whole thing over. He's got to win Florida, Ohio, North Carolina, Nevada, and Iowa, and then he's short by about 5 if he holds on to Arizona, of course, Texas, of course, and Georgia. So it's an uphill climb. He knows it, I'm sure, as do the folks. And I think there's still an outside chance to get that inside straight.
Listen, Pat Buchanan, nobody thought you'd beat a sitting president in New Hampshire, did they?
No, they didn't, but then they beat me in 33.
Well, you could have stopped right there. It was a pretty big victory.
And listen, in 92, Sean, I didn't win it, but they thought in the White House I did win in New Hampshire.
All right, Pat Buchanan, the original insurgent. Thank you. And up next tonight, right here on Hannity.
She said, I can't recall 39 times. Well, that's a lie, because everything there she could recall.
All right, highlights from Donald Trump's rally today in Pennsylvania. We'll check in with Frank Luntz, Pat Caddell. They're here. Plus, more WikiLeaks revelations. The leaked emails now reveal Hillary Clinton's role in soliciting money from her family foundations, for her family foundation, allegedly runs far deeper than we all thought. Mercedes Schlapp, Charlie Hurt, they're here with reaction as Hannity continues.
Yesterday, you read the story of a great four-star general who told one story to the FBI. They said it wasn't true, might have been a lie. And guess what? His life is destroyed. He could go to jail for 5 years. She lied over and over and over and over. 39 times, right? She said to the FBI. On July 4th weekend, not recorded and not sworn in. She said, I can't recall 39 times. Well, that's a lie, because everything there she could recall.
Donald Trump slamming Hillary Clinton over her ongoing server scandal. Also today, Fox News obtained a video from 2010 showing Hillary Clinton actually lecturing her staff at the State Department about, get this, using cybersecurity. All right, joining us now with reaction, polls to Frank Luntz and Fox News contributor Pat Caddell. Mr. Luntz, all right, I was impressed. Donald Trump, according to the Frank Luntz focus groups, won 2 of the 3 debates. That's a very high bar.
Yes, it is a high bar, but the challenge for him now is he's running 5 or 6 points behind. And Sean, there is still a path. It's a very small one, very narrow one, but that path goes based on rhetorical questions, and I'm going to give you 3 that you can ask again and again between now and Election Day. Is America safer today than it was 8 years ago? Does Hillary Clinton have the honesty and integrity to be president of the United States, and who is more likely to hold Washington accountable? If that is the focus, you can change millions of voter minds. The question is, will there be that discipline?
All right, what was the
and
last
will there
one?
be that focus?
Does Hillary Clinton, what was the last one?
Last one is, who is more likely to hold Washington accountable?
All right, Pat Caddell, what are your thoughts where we stand?
I think we stand, it's a little unclear because the polls are everywhere. And I find a lot of them pretty confusing, and I think I understand the business. But I think that he's several points behind, probably. But I think that there's more than a small pathway. I think there's a big pathway. The basic attitudes in this country are structured against the incumbent party, against Hillary Clinton and the Democrats. If Donald Trump can rise to making this a referendum, even bigger than what Frank Luntz is saying, the real issue here is who owns America, the people or the political class? Whose ox is being gored? The people know it's theirs. They believe the system is rigged against them economically. Trump's got to put these questions, and the question of, do we continue to go down the road of decline, or do we make changes, and do we overturn the corruption in Washington? Those are huge issues. His problem is he is being way too tactical and not strategic enough, in my opinion.
Let me ask you this. Do either one of you think that their polls, maybe there is a certain percentage of people that won't say they're voting for Trump, or is that just fantasy thinking among Trump supporters? I tend to say you got to believe the polls. Do you think there's a possible Brexit effect? I say you can't count on it. What do you say, Frank Luntz?
I agree with you. We polled in Brexit, and we had Leave beating Remain by 2 points. For us, the key was the subtext. What percentage of your friends and neighbors will vote to leave? What percentage of your friends? By asking it that way, you're more likely to get an honest answer. But Sean, if the focus is just on the polls over the next 18 days, then nothing is going to change. Because in the end, voters don't vote on polls. And I agree with Pat. The bigger the issue, the bigger the challenge. The more this is about change versus the status quo, the more likely you will get a change electorate. But it requires those kinds of questions to actually move the opinions of voters.
Yeah, no, I think that's well said. As you've traveled around the country, I know you've discussed this. It's always very difficult for a Republican, because they always got to thread the needle, unless they can somehow break into and get back some of those blue-collar voters that have gone Democrat in recent years, get people in states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ohio locked in, and Michigan. Does Donald Trump's message resonate any more than past Republicans because he's different on issues involving trade?
Let me give you a straight answer. The answer is yes. His message resonates more. His persona is what concerns people. And if it were just about his message, Sean, I believe that his language versus Hillary's, his position versus Hillary's, Trump wins. But on the persona, they see her as being experienced. They see her as being presidential. And they're not sure about his temperament.
Even though 70% think she's a liar and untrustworthy.
Absolutely. And that should be the issue.
Yeah.
But you just raised the point, Sean. If that's how they're voting, then Trump wins. But that's not been the focal point over the last 2 weeks.
And if he does that for 18 days, you think he comes back in a big way?
It's tough because they're not going to be standing side by side again between now and Election Day.
All right, Frank Luntz, good to see you. Thank you. Coming up, more stunning revelations from the WikiLeaks document dump. Hillary Clinton allegedly tried to personally solicit, get this, a $12 million donation to the Clinton Foundation from the King of Morocco, by the way, which she acknowledged was corrupt. Mercedes Schlapp, Charlie Hurt are here to weigh in, and more straight ahead. And welcome back to Hannity. So new revelations from WikiLeaks continue to expose Hillary Clinton and damage her campaign. The mainstream media, they're mostly ignoring what's being released, but we're keeping very close tabs on it right here on this program. Now, here are some of the biggest discoveries from this week alone. Hillary Clinton personally tried to secure a $12 million donation from the King of Morocco under the condition that she'd appear at a Clinton Foundation function in the country. Now, after Hillary apparently realized this would be after the launch of a presidential campaign and could hurt her politically, well, she then tried to back out. But her close aide, Uma Abedin, faulted Hillary for the fiasco by saying, quote, she created this mess and she knows it. We also have longtime Clinton ally Doug Band revealing that as a board member of the Clinton Global Initiative, well, he signed a conflict of interest agreement, but that, quote, Bill Clinton, he doesn't have to sign such a document, even though he is personally paid by 3 Clinton Global Initiative sponsors, gets many expensive gifts from them, and some of that at home, I could have 5 different examples of things like that. Anyway, then there's the interim DNC chair, Donna Brazile, who's already under fire for leaking primary town hall questions to Hillary Clinton and her campaign. In another email, she trashed President Obama's economy. She said, quote, I think people are more in despair about how things are. Yes, new jobs, but they're low-wage jobs. Housing is a huge issue. Most people pay half of what they make to rent. Here now with reaction, Fox News contributor Mercedes Schlapp, from the Washington Times, Charlie Hurt. Well, I've been saying that about the economy. I'm glad that somebody really knows the truth about it, because they're not saying it on the campaign trail, Mercedes.
No, I think that there's a sense of let's stay quiet about the economy. I mean, President Obama and clearly Michelle Obama, since they've been out on the campaign trail for Hillary Clinton, they've made it a point to ensure that keep a happy face on and everything's going to be okay and it's going to be fine under Hillary Clinton. And so I think what's disturbing is the fact that Hillary Clinton is really trying to, I don't quite understand her vision, but sell herself as saying she's the one that's going to be able to create economic growth. But when you look at her plan, it's very clear, Sean, that when her tax plan alone increases taxes, we're going to see more regulations. We're going to see more of the same, which means economic disappointment for Americans.
Yeah. What is your take on the whole Morocco issue and the $12 million? Is that pay to play, Charlie? Because it certainly seems like it.
I think without any doubt that it's pay to play, and what's really funny about it is it's not surprising at all. You know, as we dig through all these things, I mean, this stuff makes Machiavelli come off as Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. And what I love about it, the thing that my favorite part of it, all the lies, all the corruption, all the pay to play, the fully using